Did the Lions throttle the Colts? Are the Colts going to beat the Patriots? We're here to talk about it today on the 8th episode of Colts Unplugged Pod. Happy Thanksgiving to those that are listening. I know we're recording this on Wednesday night. I'm one of your co-hosts, Ati Logan, joined by one of my co-hosts, Pro Fan Logan, baby. And if you're not subbed yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube and on all socials, and we're here to talk about it. I know, Logan, we're about 3 days late from the Lions game. It gives us 72 plus hours to kind of debrief everything that's been going on, and we're here to talk about it. What, from your perspective, what happened during that game? Because I know it was a 24-6 game. I had them winning. I had them losing. The Colts losing 23-21, or sorry, 27-22 or something. You had them winning 23-21. Debrief it for me. What went on there?
Yeah, I think the Colts started off the way that you would want them to start off in that game. Anthony Richardson looked good early. He had a couple passes where he actually got to show off his accuracy for once, which was crazy, right? Had a couple of darts in there, a couple of breadbasket throws. But as we talked about in episode 7, the main thing that the Lions were good at on defense was red zone defense and rushing defense. And those two things, in my opinion, they shined. Those two areas shined for the Lions. They reared their ugly head for the Colts, unfortunately. And the Lions just, every time the Colts would get down there near the red zone, they stopped them. I think there was a couple times, obviously, self-inflicted wounds, right, with the Anthony Richardson almost touchdown pass to Ogletree dropped in his hands. Can't have that. But, yeah, at the end of the day, the Lions were excellent in those two areas that we thought that they would be excellent in, which was excellent red zone defense and excellent running defense. I believe Jonathan Taylor he had under 40 yards rushing, 37, if I'm not mistaken.
Somewhere in that range.
Fact check me on that, but I think it was like 37 or 38 rushing yards. Not a great day, right? Not a great day at all for that offensive line. So those were my two areas. And then obviously the offensive line, again, in my opinion, had back-to-back weeks of their two worst performances of the season. I mean, Quentin Nelson got dominated.
30 PFF
I understand that AR didn't actually take any sacks, but oh my God, was AR pressured almost every time he snapped that ball. It was
56 or 60% of snaps he was pressured on.
Bad.
Insane.
Bad.
Joe Flacco, how many sacks would he have taken? 12 plus sacks?
Yes. There might have been an NFL record set if Joe Statue Flacco was out there. But yeah,
thank
honestly,
God we have AR.
It was unfortunate. But yeah, I think those two areas for me, the red zone defense of the Lions, the running defense of the Lions, and just the poor offensive line play. There's a couple other things you can point to, but I think those are the three that stuck out like a freaking sore thumb for me.
Yeah. I think after 72 hours of sitting down and reflecting on this, Lions, don't get me wrong, you're a really good team. Super Bowl contenders, Super Bowl caliber team. Probably have a chance to honestly probably go 14-3, 15-2. I could see it. I think one of their only losses is going to come maybe again in the division, whether it be to the Vikings or the Packers. I know they're 0-7 of the last 7 years on Thanksgiving, so maybe the Bears tomorrow. We'll see, which would be interesting. But after reflecting on this, I really think the Colts beat themselves. Like you mentioned, it was self-inflicted self-inflicted wounds over and over again. The difference for me was the red zone trips for the Lions converted into touchdowns. The red zone trips for the Colts turned into field goals. And after that really promising drive, I mean, they really they set us up for wow, this could actually be a game. I remember tweeting in the first drive of the game, I was like, wow, Colts came out to play, baby. In the Indiana Knights unis, they came out, they're ready to ball out. But like you mentioned, no help. I felt like Anthony Richardson was the only one. Anthony Richardson, the D-line, and the wide receivers. A+ performance. You guys absolutely kicked ass. Latu, DeForest Buckner, y'all were doing your thing. Latu, by the way, leading all rookies in forced fumble sacks and pressure rate, I believe. And then I think he has the highest pressure rate. Yes. Yeah. He's having a better statistical season. Steelers fans, Shut your ears. He's having a better statistical season right now than TJ Watt when it comes to pressures and fumbles and things of that nature. So kind of crazy, Cillian. Watch out, brother. Kind of crazy. Shout out to you, my boy. um, but you're right. I think self-inflicted wounds in regards to penalties, 10 plus penalties or 10 penalties this game. I'm not one to talk about really much about, hey, the refs did this, refs did that. I think the last time I said that was the Brown games, coincidentally, when we were wearing our Indiana Knights unis.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but it kind of felt like the refs were just on one. Every big play, there was like 400 yards, not 400 yards, sorry, 150 yards of offense negated by penalties, by 10 penalties. AR's completion percentage would have gone to him from whatever it was to like in the 60s range or something like that because of it. His yardage would have gone
Yeah.
up to the 300 range in regards to passing yards. A lot of self-inflicting wounds. And then offensive line, you're right. I mean, starting 3 rookies at this point is tough, but you mentioned it. It really wasn't the 3 rookies outside of Dalton Tucker. It was Quentin Nelson and Dalton Tucker, left guard, right guard. Couldn't
Hmm.
really figure it out. He was pressured. Anthony Richardson was pressured from both sides. Quentin Nelson was getting absolute ransacked by their defensive tackle.
Dude.
Um,
Yeah.
Bad game, I hope, for a Hall of Fame trajectory career. Like, I really just hope it's a bad game, and he's had
That's
a few of those this year.
that's what was so puzzling to me because, as you mentioned, Quentin Nelson, for all intents and purposes, I mean, you could argue one could argue all around just based on per position that Quentin Nelson is the best player on the Colts, right? Or at
Yeah,
least top 3 at their respective positions.
even in the league,
And
he's probably one of the better. He's one or
even
two.
in the league, yeah, he's been an all pro every year he's been in the league. So to see him get bullied, bro, it wasn't even just, hey, I'm having an off game, some guys are getting through. He was on the ground. He was on the ground
Getting
like
pancaked.
multiple times, getting pancaked on the other side. I'm just like, wow, you don't really see that. So I mean, kudos to McNeil, man. McNeil came to play. He was like,
Balled
oh, I
out.
got an all pro guard in front of me. Okay, let me show out really quick. And then
Yeah.
he like I'm like he came to play. He earned his paycheck that day for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, I agree with you on the ref point. Even Shane Steichen himself in the post game pointed it out. And when your head coach, he's not one to really talk about it too much, right? Shane Steichen's more of a coach speak type of guy. But if even he's talking about it in the post game press conference, that penalties were a huge factor in today's game, and that every time you had a 30-yard gain, every time you had a 25, 40-yard gain, it got called back due to a
Just
penalty.
negated. Yep.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal if your head coach is talking about that in the post game press conference. So
You can't
I
get drives
agree with you.
going when you're first and 20, second and 20, second and 25.
Yeah,
Like, what are you gonna do at that point? Drive
holding is a
stalling.
drive killer. Holding is a
Yeah.
drive killer every time. If you have a
Yep.
holding penalty, most likely, I would love to see the stats on that league wide. If you have a holding penalty on a drive, I would love to see what the success rate of that drive is because
I
it
think it
seems
kills majority
very,
of
very
drives.
low. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a
100%
drive
agree.
killer. Yeah. So
100% agree.
couldn't agree more with the penalties, man. We gotta. I don't know what it is. I'm not really a conspiracy theorist when it comes to that. I'm not one of those guys that's either, like you said, that's like, hey, the NFL has it out for the Colts, or it's refs versus Colts. But man, it sure as hell for some reason did feel that way, and I'm hoping that was an anomaly type game and not something that's
Only in our
going to
Indiana
be a
Knights jerseys. It happens. The only 2 times I've
yeah.
talked about it. Literally.
Apparently
It
they
just felt
gotta
like
apparently they gotta retire those bad boys.
yeah. Yeah.
They need
It just
new jerseys, man.
100%. For me, it was just like I just felt like they weren't calling the game like equally to both sides in regards to the refs. It just felt like there were so many holds. Like on that touchdown, Jahmyr Gibbs touchdown, I just felt like Grover Stewart was
Yeah.
just getting held by the center, and like I could see it clear as day. And I was like texting my other buddy that was a Colts fan. I was like, "Did you see that? Like, are they not going to call it?" I immediately tweeted too. I was like, "So we're not calling penalties the same way, I guess." And like, how much? Like,
Yeah.
why are we giving the Lions the Chiefs treatment? Like, Lions, you've been asked for years. You finally have a couple of winning seasons back to back years. Like, you're not the Chiefs. Like, you're not Brady and the
Yeah.
Pats. Like, I'm sorry, you don't
Yeah.
deserve this treatment yet. Do it for another 5 years, and we'll talk about it. And then
Well, and the thing is, too, as you mentioned, like with the Lions, they didn't need any additional help. We talked
they
about it.
didn't need
They're
it.
a good
Yeah,
football team, bro. They are the best football team in the league by far in
Yeah.
almost every category. And it's like, they don't need help with
Yeah.
10 extra penalties a game. Like, come on, man.
Yeah. I
Crazy.
also know, Logan, this is a Colts pod, but like I was watching the game, and obviously we all view like the Lions as Super Bowl contenders and whatnot. Like they could run the table in the NFC. I was looking at some of those throws by Jared Goff, just
Mm.
some pretty bad misses. And I was like, wow, you should probably bench him. Like how you did for Anthony Richardson, because of a couple misses here and there. he had a bad miss to like Sam
Yeah.
Laporta. It was like really bad miss. Threw behind Jamison Williams, missed Amon Ra. He actually missed like I think Laporta twice. One on a corner route,
Yeah.
one on a flat route. Like just drive killers too. So once again, Colts pod. We're not here to talk about Jared Goff. But two biggest areas of improvement. I can speak on two of them, I think, and then if you want to add on or kind of speak to them as well. One is obviously the tight end group. What the hell are we doing there? Like we knew coming to the season, like the tight end group needs assistant, right? And hopefully, I don't know what Jelani Woods is. Unfortunately, he's been hit with the injury bug over the last couple of years. Big guy, 6'8", forgot how many pounds he is. He had that game-winning catch against the Chiefs in man coverage with Matt Ryan. And ever since then, I was like, wow, we found our tight end one. Like he can catch. He's a big body guy is he out of Virginia or West Virginia, I think? And then he can block a little bit too.
Virginia, yes, yeah.
Yes, one of the
Very
schools
good.
in Virginia. I don't remember. And so we can talk about that too. Second thing I want to talk about too, and tell me if I'm wrong. Linebacker core. What is going on? It felt like Ben Johnson, Dan Campbell, they knew their philosophy for this game is let's throw in the middle of the field because we know these linebackers cannot cover for shit whatsoever. I miss rookie Jalen Carlisle, I think is his name. I miss him. He was like a top 5 statistically, top 5 linebacker when it comes to coverage, pass coverage. And then Zaire Franklin, 30 PFF grade. EJ Speed did not have his best game. That was brutal. We need to assess the linebacker position and the tight end group come this April in the draft, or go get a guy like go pay David Njoku for a 2-year deal and then go draft a young guy behind him or something. But we need assistance, I think, in those two areas, which is surprising because I thought it was going to be corners, and we're fine there on the DB
Yeah,
end.
no,
I think
100%. And I think you're right. I thought it was going to be secondary going into the year as well, especially when you had Juju Brents go down pretty early with a season-ending injury. I was like, oh man, here we go. Secondary's going to get toasted
all
again. But a
over
couple of
again.
those guys really stepped up, right? Like Jalen Jones has come into his own. Womack has really come
Shout
into
out
his
Samuel
own.
Womack. Give me a round of
Obviously,
applause, Logan.
yeah,
Samuel Womack, dog,
good.
great pickup.
Honestly, two pretty good young corners to build upon there. And then obviously at the safety position, I think Nick Cross has stepped up big time, right?
Man, love him.
Leading, I think he's like third in the league in tackles. Julian Blackman's
I want to say
quietly
I
had a
called it.
pretty solid season. Yeah.
I called it after everyone said Nick Cross is not the answer after injuring Josh Downs and in the offseason. Everyone's like, we need to assess this. I'm like, I like Nick Cross. I think he's going to ball out. He's 23 years old. Would have been drafted in the first round in last year's draft. So, like, he's a dog.
No, Ballard stuck to his guns there, and it paid off in the secondary, but I couldn't agree with you more. The tight end position, I think, is one of those areas where sometimes Colts fans are, I will say this, sometimes Colts fans can be slightly delusional in thinking that this roster is incredible, right? And then when we don't succeed, you place too much on the quarterback position. We've seen it happen. I do think that this roster has more holes than a lot of people originally thought. I think people were like, oh, this is a great roster. This is a win now roster. We just need AR to come into his own. I don't quite think this team is ready yet to win now. They need a couple areas of help, and one of those is tight end. They have to be, I would say, bottom 3 tight end room in the NFL right now, period. Just bottom line. There's no
they are 100%. 100%.
And then, as you said, also the other area, the linebacker core. I think sometimes with Zaire Franklin, yes, we love Zaire Franklin. He's a fan favorite, but hear me out. I think a lot of the reason why his stats get inflated so high is because he's making tackle after tackle after tackle in the middle of the field, when in reality, what we really need him to do is be better in coverage. He's making a lot of those tackles because he's letting the receiver catch the ball and then tackle him, right? If you look
That's
at
true. He is a
certain
good run
teams
stopper,
like the
though. I
49ers,
like that.
yes, he's a
Blitz Zaire
fantastic run
Franklin
stopper,
more.
one of the best in the league on that end of things. But if you look at sort of those hybrid linebackers, right, in the league, if you look over at the 49ers with like Fred Warner, we need a hybrid type linebacker that's able to really perform incredibly well in pass coverage, because nowadays in the
Jalen
NFL,
Carlisle.
you're going to
I'm
have a
sorry
lot
you're
of
injured, but
routes
that's him.
going like
Yeah, a lot of
this.
crossers, a lot of shallows.
A lot of
Yeah.
meshes, a lot of crosses, a lot of screen passes, and we saw a lot of that in the against the Lions, right? So, yeah, man, need a lot of help on that end of things too. Zaire is an excellent, great middle linebacker, but I don't think he's the guy when it comes to you know pass coverage. I don't think he's ever going to like give you a massive lift in pass coverage. That's never
Yeah.
been his mo there,
I
and I think he knows that too. But
I still think Zaire is like a cornerstone for this organization. Obviously, he just got paid this year. We need to keep him around as a leader, and
yeah,
he's a good player. He's a damn good player still. I like Zaire.
yeah,
I know he needs to work on the coverage side, but as a run defender, when he's blitzing, Gus
fantastic.
Bradley, give us more
Mhm.
Zaire Franklin blitz packages because he gets in their
Yep.
face. Like Jared Goff was just off every time he blitzes. I feel like it's an incompletion for the offense. So I love that. Love to see it. One thing that I will say, I know I was always pro Ballard. We've talked about this in other episodes. You've been in recent years, hey, let's get off of the Ballard train. And now I'm more leaning towards that.
Yeah.
Let's get off the Ballard train. Realistically, I don't think Ballard is going to get fired. I think the whole AR injury kind of extended everyone like an extra year, missing the entire
Yeah.
season last year. But one thing I will
Yeah.
pride Ballard on, there's not a lot of things outside of like he drafts well in the middle rounds, depth, stuff like that. One thing that I'll pride him on is he'll recognize a problem and he'll immediately draft for that need on a consistent basis. And one example of that was a couple of years ago. We needed wide receiver help. Like it was Michael Pittman, it was Paris Campbell, it was who am I missing? Zach Pascal, who's on the Cardinals now. I think he's on the Cardinals now. I don't remember, but it's he saw that, hey, there was a need for wide receivers. The next couple of drafts, what did he do? He drafted Alec Pierce in the second round. He drafted Josh Downs in the third round. He drafted Adonai Mitchell in the second round. 3 back-to-back solid wide receivers. And
Yeah.
I think he recognizes and he sees, just like, hey, we like our group, we like our guys in the DBs, and he was right there. I think, especially if Juju Brents can stay
Yeah.
healthy, it's time to be, hey, we don't necessarily like our guys on the tight end group. I'd love to bring back,
Mm-hmm.
if possible, I would love to bring back or sustain with, what's his face? We just talked about him. Jelani Woods. I'd
Jelani
love
Wood.
to give him one more
Mm-hmm.
year, but he needs to have a solid offseason where we can see he stays healthy. But draft a guy like Warren, draft a guy like Loveland, draft a guy like, I forgot the other guy's name, the other third, I think second or third best tight end in the draft. He's a dog too. Just get someone behind him to be a pass catcher because we can see what an elite level tight end can do for an offense. The Raiders are running on
Yeah.
Brock Bowers only, and he is elite. Travis Kelce, Noah Gray for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
A tight end can really open the field up, and a good blocking tight end too is going to help some of those younger tackles, younger guards, and help the run game as well. So would love to Ballard recognize this is a problem. Go draft. Go draft a pretty solid guy, or go get into
Yeah.
Joku and draft a younger guy behind him.
Yeah. Yeah. That would also be an option. And that's
Yeah.
my point is I don't think the Colts need to go out and get necessarily a Travis Kelsey or a Rob Gronkowski. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying like those guys don't grow on
Give us a Jack
trees,
Doyle.
right? Or a Brock Bowers.
Like,
We just need an efficient tight end, just a
yeah.
sufficient tight end. No, none of these guys would start on any other roster in the
Not at
NFL.
all.
So I mean, it's like, what are we doing here, man? What are we doing?
Yeah. Literally not
That's
at
where
all.
I'm at with it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. Back to the Lions game though. I know we kind of got off of a tangent of kind of like, I guess we were talking about like wants and needs based on the game that we just recognized. Just once again, just coming back to it, it really was self-inflicting wounds. I think the Colts were it was just drive killer after drive killer in regards to penalties, in regards to reffing, in regards to offensive line, in regards to not being able to catch the ball, negated a bunch of plays. Like this team really just shot themselves in the foot. And I think it could have been a lot closer. I'm not going to say we would have won, but I think it could have been a lot closer if some of these, field goals turned into touchdowns, if some of these yards negated by penalties turns into field goals, etc., touchdowns. It obviously would have been a lot closer. One thing I wanted to ask you though, because this defense, a lot of defenses have not in recent years or recent weeks held this Detroit Lions offense at 24 points. We've seen 50 plus, we've seen 48. With a respectful defense like the Titans too. One question I wanted to ask you: how would you rank this defense amongst the entire NFL, amongst the league? Where do you rank this? Where do you rank this defense? I know they've progressively grown game to game. I know we were on fire, Gus Bradley. Where do you sit now?
I would put the Colts probably right where they, defensive wise, of course. I would put them defensive wise middle of the pack. And the reason I say that is because basically every statistic tells you that they're still not great against the run, right? They still do give up a lot of passing yards. And they're pretty decent in the red zone. They're similar to the Lions in that regard. They're decent in red zone defense, and they don't give up a ton of points. They're not giving up 30-point games consistently left and right, right? So I think they're middle of the pack only because it seems as if they're one of those defenses that's not able to string together consistent games in all areas. Like they'll have a great game on the run game, but then get torched in the passing game, or they'll have a great game in the passing game, but then get torched on the ground. So I think they need to sort of string that all together. I think there were a lot of things to love against the Lions. We called it, on episode 7, I called it on the pod. DeForest Buckner needed to have a big game, right?
Yeah,
He had a freaking massive game. He basically had 2 sacks. He had the second sack. He had a hand on Jared Goff about this close, that second sack.
Yep.
But he had a fantastic game. He had a lot of tackles for loss, a lot of pressures, and I thought he played really well. And so we need that level of production pretty much year round or consistently to, I think, be considered an elite level defense. Because if you look at the Steelers of the world, or even the Lions of the world in a lot of weeks, some of these really good defenses that are out there this year, they are getting elite level play from their elite level players. And I think consistency is an area that the Colts have struggled with this year. So if I had to rank them, I would say probably around middle of the pack, 15, 16 mark overall. And letter grade, I'd probably give the defense either like a C plus or a B minus this year, just because there has been some games where they've gotten torched. If we're looking at the last 4 or 5 games, I'd probably bump that up to like a B plus or a B. But overall, season wise, I'd feel comfortable probably with like a C plus or a B minus.
Yeah, I'd say I'd pretty much agree with you. I think this is a middle of the field, middle of the pack defense. You're right; they can't really string good drives together on the defensive side of the ball, and it's really frustrating to see. Obviously, the Detroit Lions were targeting the middle of the field when it comes to on the pass catching side of the equation, throwing the ball. But they disrespected our defense so much, where it was 3rd and 8. Hey, we're just gonna run it right down your throat, and they converted it 2 or 3 times on 3rd and 6 and 3rd and 8 with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, Sonic and Knuckles, and they figured it out. It was really frustrating to watch on TV. This team is not able to get off the field. It didn't help that our offense was struggling too with self-inflicting wounds like we talked about. This might be a hot take. Maybe it isn't. I think this defense is a playoff caliber defense. They're playing like a defense you'd like to see in the playoffs. I don't know about an NFC or AFC championship defense, but I think this is a defense that can get you to the divisional round. And I think what really needs to happen is this offensive side of the ball needs to start clicking more so on the self-inflicting wounds and the tight end group and the offensive line side of the equation. I know I said this in our TikTok already that I posted. Box score watchers, do not listen to them, Colts fans. AR had a really good game. I know on the stat sheet it didn't show, but all those negated passes, all those negated penalties reflecting in loss of yardage. for Anthony Richardson, a drop touchdown by Drew Ogletree. Like, this is a 60+% completion percentage game for Anthony Richardson. This is a nearly 300-yard passing game for Anthony Richardson without some of these things. So don't let them fool you. But Anthony Richardson, I'm proud of you, man. You came out after the benching. You had a phenomenal game against the Jets with 300 total yards, 3 touchdowns. You came out today, and I know you didn't have any touchdowns on the board, but you played pretty solid. You were accurate for most of the game. You got the ball to the right place. I think running the ball too. You had your career high 61 yards on the ground. You could have broke one for a touchdown. I wish you just cut out after looking at the 822. But I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed. Like what I've seen in the last 2 weeks from Anthony Richardson. I think we have ourselves, stay healthy, please. We have ourselves a franchise quarterback based on a 2-game sample size. So,
well, a little
the
bit
bounce
more
back.
than 2 games, but
yeah.
These past 2 games have been the most important growth games for sure. I agree with you as on the AR side of things. Crazy stat that I learned the other day from the whole offensive situation. So crazy enough, like I said, the offensive line had an abysmal game, but gave up 0 sacks only because of Anthony Richardson.
Yes.
I read a stat, or I saw a stat. I believe it was on Colts Corner with Kevin Bowen. He talked about how this season in the NFL, teams that gave up 0 sacks and didn't turn the ball over. So the Colts didn't turn the ball over, and they didn't give up any sacks.
Oh no.
Teams this year are 13.
You're gonna say like 15-1, right? Oh, 13-0.
13-0. So now it's 13-1 because the Colts lost. So they were the first team this year to lose by not giving up any sacks and not turning the ball over. In the history of the Colts, however, they were previously, I don't quote me, it was either 30-3 or 38-3, one of those 2 numbers, when they don't turn the ball over and they don't give up any sacks. So the win percentage is off the charts when you do that, and yet the Colts found a way to get blown out. It wasn't even close. So,
but it's such an interesting stat because I feel like any other quarterback outside of Anthony Richardson, like that's a 6+ sack game and a loss. But because you have Anthony Richardson, it kind of negates the whole like statistics side of the equation for that, because you turn all those sacks into a throwaway or a positive play or something.
I think that's my frustration though with this Colts team, and I think a lot of fans are there too. It seems as if this Colts team is always a part of these weird statistics, right? Like you've got a couple years ago where the Colts were up 33-0 right over the Vikings, and then they give up the biggest comeback in NFL history. It's these little stats and these little things that I think people are just so tired of. It's like why is it the Colts? Why is it our team? That's the one that's the outlier here. Why can't we string some good things together? Why can't these stats go in our favor? So it is definitely frustrating as a fan to see this team on paper. Yes, they have some major areas, like I said, where I don't think they're necessarily a AFC contender right now, obviously, but this is definitely a team that has the ability to compete in the AFC South at least. And they just continue to have it right there in front of them, and it just somehow falls apart due to some crazy statistic that no one's ever seen before. So I can't tell you how exhausting it is sometimes as a Colts fan.
I 100% agree. Kind of switching gears though, the Colts have the opportunity though to right their own ship, and it starts this Sunday, post Thanksgiving, in Gillette Stadium, where, by the way, the Colts have not won since 2006. I was 8 years old at the time. You were 11 years old at the time, and
I think I remember what game that was. If I'm not mistaken, was it that Monday night game against Tom Brady? Is that right? Where Marvin Harrison had that crazy catch where he tipped it to himself and
I don't remember
drag in the end zone. I gotta look that up because I think it was that game. Because 2006 would have been the year they won the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl win. Yeah, it was Super Bowl year. Yeah. Was it that? Yeah. Where was the AFC Championship played again? That was in Indy, right? Yeah, I think it was in Indy.
Yeah, so I think they played them either that year or the year before, though, in New England, and it was that game where Marvin Harrison had that crazy one-handed tip catch to
Insane
himself, and
one-handed.
then he like drug his
Oh, I
left
think I know what
leg
you're talking
and
about.
yeah.
I think I remember what you're talking
So
about. Yeah. Once again,
it might be the last
I
time they
was
won
8
it.
years old, but I think I remember that. But big game. You have the chance to write your own ship. I don't even want to say that. It sounds so weird to say, sitting at 5-7, you're 2 games behind the Houston Texans. It's weird to say, like, you're kind of still in it in regards to like what the scheduling looks
Right,
like.
yeah.
We're out of our gauntlet outside of Denver, who's surprisingly good, and they're kind of heading into not their gauntlet because they start with the Jags this weekend, but Trevor Lawrence is playing again. But kind of a weird game for them. Like they've got the Chiefs, the Dolphins, the Ravens in kind of like back to back to back weeks for the Houston Texans. So I would
Yeah.
love for the Colts to take advantage of this. And crazy, once again, Colts are always, actually, I guess Colts aren't really on this stat sheet. This is the entire AFC South. Over the last 2 years, it's always been a come from behind team that ends up winning the AFC South. And, we
Yeah.
saw it was
Good
Houston
point.
last year. Who was it the year before? Was it the Titans? Who was it 2 years ago? I don't remember who won the
It
AFC
would
South.
be Titans, I believe. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, I'm not 100% certain. It was the Titans or the Jags.
Might
I
have
think
been
the
the
Jags. Oh,
Jags,
the Jags.
actually. Yeah.
They played the Chargers, right, or something like that, and came from
Yep.
behind
Yeah, they
and
played the
won,
Chargers in the
or something
playoffs.
like that.
Yep, came behind.
Yeah,
Came from behind.
yeah. So we've had that back-to-back years. Why can't the Colts make it 3 years in a row? A little come from behind. Obviously, you still have to play Jacksonville this time, not in Jacksonville, but still. Um, it starts here, though. It starts this Sunday against a Patriots team that's reeling, but they have a young quarterback, young dynamic quarterback that's really good at what he does. If he had started earlier, I think we have him in conversations for Rookie of the Year
Yeah.
over even guys like Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix. That's how good he's playing right now. But you got to take advantage of what they're not good at. And what they're not good at is the offensive line of the ball. You got to bring pressure. You got to make Drake May more uncomfortable than he already is. And I think it starts there. It starts, like Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed likes to say, in the trenches.
Yeah, 100%. It's very similar, I think, to the Lions game that I predicted last time. DeForest Buckner again needs to step up, play a really good game, cause some havoc in there on the interior, and I think Latu can really have another solid game too. If he can get another strip sack on Drake May, cause some issues back there, get a couple sacks on the board because he's been very close a lot of the season, as we talked about before. Yeah, I like the Colts' chance to win this game. So I felt weird about it if the Colts would have beaten the Lions. I talked to you about that last episode. I think if they
Yeah.
beat Detroit, I had a weird feeling they would lose to New England actually. But because they lost to Detroit, I do think that they beat New England now. I do
Yeah.
feel that. Um,
Yeah.
as far as areas that you can see of areas of opportunity rather for the Colts, what are where are you seeing areas of opportunity that they might have over this Patriots team? And what do you think
Yeah.
is like maybe your X? Maybe we can get into like X factors too about who you think needs
Yeah.
to have a great game.
This is still a good defense, right, for the Patriots. So I'm going to say the X factor, and I think I mentioned this a few minutes ago. The X factor is the defensive line for the Colts. You get pressure, I think you win this game. They don't have a lot of dogs on the offensive side of the ball in terms of receiving threats, but
Yeah,
they have a couple solid, like just good guys, like Demario Douglas. He's a young, dynamic, good wide receiver. Keyshawn Booty, I call him General Booty. He's pretty good. He's 23 years old or 24 years old too, a little bit of a younger guy as well. Jalen Polk hasn't really gotten it going yet, but he's a young guy, young dynamic guy that's 21, played with Michael Penix out in Washington. And then the killer that always ends up killing the Colts is the tight end position, Hunter Henry. He's having himself a year, man. Like he's kind of like
literally what I was going
John
to
Us. Yeah, he's John Smith to Tua. It's basically like just kind of that safety blanket guy over the middle. Could string together a 100-yard game easily, especially against his Colts defense. So linebackers,
Yeah,
get it the fuck going, baby. Like we need you here. We need good coverage on Hunter Henry. He had a couple of good games against us. I think he had a good game against us last time. He had games against us in 2021 where he caught like 2 touchdowns or something like that. And then I guess what about you? What is like an area of, or where is the areas that the Colts can capitalize on?
yeah. Well, I really need. I think the Colts need
Oh,
to
this is not a want.
capitalize.
This is a
Yeah,
need.
not even a want. They need to capitalize on the run game
Yes, you're
because
right.
it's been abysmal since AR's come back, man, and that is not how it was looking earlier in the year. It was looking like, hey, the running
Like
attack is
pre-benching, it
going
was
to
great.
be better, better. Yeah,
Yes.
pre AR benching is going to be better with him back, and it's been just downright awful. I mean, it's been crazy how bad it's been. So
Yeah.
I need the offensive line. I'm actually going to go out and say the X factor for the game. You went D line. I'm going to go offensive line, specifically Quentin Nelson. I'm calling him out. He needs to come out and erase last week's performance from his brain and come out and be the Hall of Fame guard that he is. And they need to
He
get
will be. He'll bounce
JT
back.
going. I think he will. Yeah, I really do. Like, I don't see him having like two just terrible games in a row. Like,
Yeah.
that would just blow my mind, right? So I do think that Jonathan Taylor needs to get going. They got to get him rolling early because that's going to free up AR, man. AR is going to feel so much better back there and feels just so much more secure knowing that he has a solid running game behind him, knowing that JT is that safety valve that he can easily hand the ball off to. So I think that's going to be the key in the
Yeah.
game for me. Is
Yeah.
Jonathan Taylor? I want to see him go over 100 yards again, and I want to see that offensive line have a good game and give AR a little time, man. Just give him a little bit of time so he can make some magic happen. We saw what he's capable of with some of those dart throws, some of those breadbasket throws, like I mentioned. You gotta just give the kid a little bit of time, and
Oh, like that
he'll make
bomb
it
to
pay
Alec
off.
Pierce could have happened, man. It
Yeah,
was so close. That's a
gotta
game changer.
gotta give him time though, man. It's hard to put a throw right on a guy when I mean you are just constantly
In a
running
second
outside
and
the
a half.
pocket or you're yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
one, two, bam, he's got to get rid of it. One, two, bam, I got to run outside. One, two, bam.
Yep.
It's just they got to have a better game. So definitely O
I
line
want
and
to
Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, I think part of it too, like the receivers. And the reason I mentioned the receivers, and I have my phone pulled up right now, I want to talk to you real quick about the injury report. And it was kind of
Oh yeah,
crazy
yeah.
to look at today. Tanner Bortolini, he has a concussion. Came in on Monday with symptoms. He did not play today. I think he's more than likely out. It's really hard for players to have come out of concussion protocol after like 5 days or something like that. So, and then next week is
Yeah.
the bye week. So I think they're gonna be a little bit careful with him. But that's concerning because we'll have to start Danny Pinter unless Bernard Ryman comes back. He was a limited participant today, which is good to see. But if he
That's
comes
good. Yeah.
back, plays left tackle, maybe you move Mac Goncalves to center or something, and then you got to figure out the whole right guard situation. We'll get to that. Josh Downs, Shane Steichen said today was unlikely. It's going to be very hard for him to come back and play this Sunday. He was a did not participate today as well in practice. And literally Shane Steichen's words were, "I'd be shocked if he essentially plays this Sunday.
Wow.
Like
That's
he has a lot to come
unfortunate.
back from."
Yeah.
Very unfortunate. One thing I'm excited though is we saw AD Mitchell the first 2 weeks playing in the slot for Josh Downs. Granted, he was a rookie, still learning the playbook. I think he's kind of come to himself a little bit over the last couple of weeks. He's strung together some good
Mm-hmm.
games when he has that snap percentage, that playing time. So Adonai Mitchell, go be the baller you are, man, especially in the slot. Will be exciting to see. Ashton Doolin obviously did not play, kind of tough for the special, did not participate. It's tough for the special team side, and then also with depth for wide receivers. Alec Pierce did not participate today. Remember, he was taping up his ankle during the game against the
Mm.
Colts. He did not play today, and if him and Josh Downs are both out, just kind of speculating, you'd have a wide receiver group of Michael Pittman, Adonai Mitchell, and Ashton Doolin. You'd probably bring up a guy like
Oof.
Anthony Gould or TJ Montgomery or something like that. But something to consider there.
That brings
Bernard
back
Ryman, though.
nightmares of the luck era, man. Of some of the receiver groups
Yes.
that we trot out there sometimes. That
Yes.
does not sound great. That does
In a
not sound
must-win
great.
game, too. Must-win game,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Granted, Dalton Tucker and Michael Pittman were both full participants today, and then Bernard Ryman was limited. I know we talked about that a little bit earlier. He was limited today, which is a good sign. If he can knock out like a limited full, I'd love to see that and have him back
Yeah.
for this Sunday. But in a must-win game, having these many injuries, it takes me back to like week 2 and 3 already, where it was just brutal on the injury report.
Yeah.
Please. Stay healthy. We need you, man. These next 5 games, thankfully you have a bye week, but these next 5 games, need it. Need to figure it out.
And that's all the more, especially hearing that report. I appreciate you having that pulled up, especially hearing that injury report. That makes it all the more important, man. That the Colts need to have a running game because if
Yep.
they do have to try out Michael Pittman Jr., Adonai Mitchell, and Ashton Dulin or some combo of those guys, dude, they're gonna need to be able to run the ball. It's gonna be absolutely crucial to be able to run the
Yep.
ball. And this is
I
why you
100%
paid a
agree.
guy like Jonathan Taylor, right? This is why you pay your offensive line so much money. You pay these guys for games like this, must-win situations. Hey, we're gonna give you the rock 25 times. We need you to get over 100 yards. We need you to get in the end zone a couple times. Got to do it.
Yep.
So I think this
100%
could be
agree.
a legacy game for old JT.
Yeah. I tweeted
Great.
this too. Next 5 games for the Colts at 3-9 Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully a dub. I hope so. At 7-5 Broncos. Broncos look good. I wouldn't be surprised if we lose that game, but obviously need a dub there. At home against the 3-8 Titans, and then at the 2-9 Giants, and then at home against the 2-9 Jags. So this is a very favorable
Wow.
schedule coming off the gauntlet that we just had outside of the Broncos. They're the only winning team there. You go 5-0, Logan. I think you have the tiebreaker over the Dolphins. If you go 5-0, the Bengals aren't going to be able to catch you. You can find a way to sneak into the playoffs. If you beat the Broncos, you have the tiebreaker over them, and then you have obviously the Ravens and Chargers. And the Chargers just lost to the Ravens on Monday Night Football. So
Yep.
everything is still in front of you. Everything. And speaking on that, score prediction. I know last week you were
Mm-hmm.
like, "Hey, if we beat the Lions, this could be a trap game for the Pats." What does that look
Yes.
like now for you?
Like I said, I think I'm pretty confident that the Colts will win now, just because they did lose, unfortunately, the Detroit game. I I could see it being a little bit of a slugfest, especially if the Colts do try to rely heavily on Jonathan Taylor, which it sounds like they might because of their injury situation going on right now. I'm gonna roll with a lower scoring game, but I don't think super low scoring. I'm gonna go 24 Colts. I'll go 24 Colts, 18 Patriots.
Okay,
I
I
think
like that.
yeah, so that would be by 6. Yeah, I feel that feels comfortable. I'm not sure what the line's sitting at
I'm
right now.
looking
I'd
that up
love
right
to
now.
see.
Colts minus
Yeah.
2.5. That's what I was pulling up just now.
Okay, minus 2.5. Wow, on the road, that's generous. Generous though. It's always
Mhm.
generous to get a minus,
It's
team
like that.
minus on the road.
Thank
So
you, Vegas
yeah.
gods. Appreciate you. Wonder what
Yeah,
these
I
injuries
like
was going
that.
to look like.
I think right. Yeah, who they tried out there. So I think Colts 24, Patriots 18. Again, I expect a healthy dose of Jonathan Taylor. I want to see 100 plus yards. I really need to see it out of him this game. Need him to step up. And Anthony Richardson, I could see a potential incoming slight struggle game after two pretty good pretty good games,
That's
pretty good
defense is
progress.
decent.
I could
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see a potential struggle game maybe. The Patriots have always had a pretty good way of disguising some of those defensive coverages and things of that nature, and for all intents and purposes Anthony Richardson is basically still a rookie, so I can see him struggling a little bit, maybe throw a pick or two. I just but I think it's good to see regardless, like we talked about it. I want to see him just continue to work through those problems, work through those issues, and just
Yeah.
continue to move forward. I do think the defense can have a great day against Drake May, because Drake May is due for a stinker game. He hasn't really had just a straight stinker rookie game yet, and I
Dolphins
and
was a
I,
little
I
bit, but
think
they ended up
he's
scoring 15 in the
yeah,
fourth. But
that's true. That's a good point. Yeah, I guess his stinker game technically was this past week, but I do think he's capable of a real stinker game where the defense can pick him 2-3 times and get
Can
some
the Colts
sacks because he is still a rookie. So I'm hoping they do that.
can the Colts ever give like young quarterbacks or like backup quarterbacks stinker games though? Because it feels like with this bend don't break defense, they just always go crazy. Like it
That's
doesn't
so
matter.
true.
Like,
Yeah,
like
they were the team that made Caleb Williams look like he could be the second coming of Tom Brady there.
yeah,
So who
it was
knows?
like Trevor Lawrence, his rookie year, just diced
Yep.
us basically the entire time. Jake Browning diced us. Like it's like every quarterback just
Yeah.
dices us, which is whatever. That's how the
You got a
defense
good
is
point.
built.
You
It's our
got a good
identity.
point.
I'm with you though on two things. One, run the goddamn ball to win. I like JT. I like Anthony Richardson. You need to continue to have those QB runs despite, obviously hiring the risk of injury, increasing the risk of injury. Would still love to see Anthony Richardson continue to run the ball with JT there against a not so good Patriots run defense. And then I'm also with you. Secondly, with a
Mm-hmm.
low scoring game, I'm going to go a little bit lower though. I'm going to have the Colts winning
Mm-hmm.
17-10. First win in Gillette Stadium since
Okay.
2006. Yeah, I think this defense is once again bend don't break. But I think they're going to get a turnover or two, which I really hope to see. Continue the streak. Obviously, we
Yep.
didn't have a turnover last game, but had a forced fumble, which continued the streak to like 7 or 8 games, maybe 9 games for the fumble side of the equation. We'll have to recover some of those though. But I'm gonna say 17-10. Colts win. They have the urgency to win. They have the need to win. And hopefully they just come out swinging, man, with whoever they send out there with all these injuries that we're facing right now.
I think it's funny too. You mentioned the streak of the strip fumble. Again, it's just another statistic where
Oh
the
my
Colts
God,
are the
yes.
outlier, right? Like they string together this awesome, amazing stat. They lead the NFL in that category, and they don't have the record to show for it. So
Yeah.
hopefully they can start to come out on the other side with that and continue to dominate in that category.
Yeah.
So
100% agree.
appreciate you guys. Appreciate all you guys for tuning in to episode 8. Happy Thanksgiving. We haven't mentioned it yet, but happy Thanksgiving
Yes.
to everybody. If you're listening to this on Thanksgiving, thank you so much. If you've listened to this over the weekend, we thank you guys so much for tuning in.
And all the
And
support
we're only doing
on
obviously
everything.
one podcast this week. Yes, thank you so much for the support. We really, really appreciate it. We see every comment, and we really appreciate it. And we're only doing one podcast this week because of the holiday season, so we made it a little bit longer for you guys today. But that should about wrap it up. Just make sure to follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. We be tweeting.
We do be tweeting
posting.
and retweeting.
We do be tweeting and retweeting.
Yep. And
So
retweeting.
appreciate you
And
guys
quote
over
tweeting.
there. Any last words for the Colts Unplugged pod family?
No, we just, outside of just, hey, appreciate you guys. I know it's Thanksgiving, so giving thanks to all of you guys that have tuned in. I know we just started this pod less than a month ago, but to see already the interactions that we're getting slowly on YouTube, but a lot on X and specifically on TikTok and Instagram and things of that nature. Thank you for going with us as we try to navigate and figure out what the hell we're doing. But all we know is that we like Colts ball and we like talking to you guys about it. So we're super thankful for that. And then outside of that, we'll catch you guys on Monday after a much needed Colts W.